Grant. With Resource Gravity. I'm a consultant here that works with construction businesses and some other businesses too. Actually, with around the city of Denver and in Colorado and other places that do strategy and work with tactical and consistency. So this is session 4 of 4 for win the battle of consistency. And I will share my screen here with this next batch of slides, and we'll get started. Let me just share my screen, pick up my slides, and get going here. So part 4, advancing consistency. We have been talking over the last couple sessions here about this guide concepts that are arranged in an order such a way that we can advance and win this battle of consistency throughout strategy, tactical support of the strategy, and now some consistent training feedback and consistent training that we're going to look at in this session, all based on the premise of understanding where you're at with your business. So I went through session 3 today with tactics, and then just in the for what it's worth category for those who may start with this in the future. Apparently there was some technical difficulties on the second session, so we quickly at the end of session 3 flipped through and talked a little bit briefly about session 2 for those people who maybe didn't see session 2. There were a couple people on that didn't. So we talked about the strategy and how there's these 3 different levels, and that's the graphic that's here that shows a way to look at strategy and align strategy where you need it in your company and what the spaces you're working on. So I'm gonna try to wrap up this whole guide and the whole tract here with consistency, with a bunch of different graphics, and hopefully tie things together for clarity and consistency, and throw a little bit of leadership ideas in here and training and some leadership thoughts on how training and leadership growth within people and the organization can happen too. So to get started here, I like to kind of define in my mind for everyone what I believe or what the premise is that all this is based on. So for me, when I start thinking about consistency, I look at it as an achievement of a level of performance that does not vary greatly in quality, over time. And so consistency is, in my mind, is pretty a simple thing to think about. If I'm being consistent, I am going to not vary much over my performance and set what I call a standard of care. So that I know what my standard of care is, or the team's standard of care is, or the company's standard of care is, or anybody's standard of care is. I know what that standard of care is, and I can be consistent in delivering the standard of care for them until the standard of care gets adjusted, and until such a time. So if we can do, or if that's the mission, it's very key for us to know that, because if we will do that, we will build trust and deliver efficiently and profitably over time. And so that consistency process, or that consistency thought, is very important. And I'm going to weave quality in there, or clarity in there as well here in a second, as a second part, a two-headed coin is what I call it, that happens. And so simplified, consistency is the more frequently you perform the action, the more progress you will make. And that is absolutely what I believe in. And the more that we can do the action, the more progress we're going to make. And that is a very big key for consistency. So I have done quite a bit of talking about this 3-win model and the 3-win and this 3-win concept. And I'm going to show you a couple different ways here in general terms that how this 3-win model can stay or keep consistency throughout what we do with our work. And again, I'm going to put a little caveat in here that this is very specific to our construction operations and being profitable on the job site. Obviously, there are other components of our business, such as other departments or other areas within companies, such as human resources, or maybe, like the finance people, or other areas within a business that are support structures, even safety and quality control, kind of depending on what type of company you have, that are I call supporting structures around this concept. But in order for us to build profitable work, we need to win 3 times, and there are 3 big wins that are required. And that first win is, we have to win in sales and procurement. We have to win the job. We have to understand what the win is. Number 2 is, we have to win at pre-construction and turnover. And so, or turnover. And I went through a pre-construction turnover in session 3. If you want to go back and listen to that, there was quite a bit of conversation about the difference between pre-construction and turnover, and why being tactical is important in win 2, but you have to win number 2. And then last but not least, we have to win the third time in construction operations. And so my metric that I use, and what I look at for consistency, is that if we can be consistent and win 3 out of 3, we will generally make more than what our bid margin was. If we win all 3, we will bid the job and make more money than what we bid the job. Our profits will increase. If we win 2 of these 3, and let's say that, here's a hypothetical, let's say that we do a good job, we do a good bid, and we win number 1, we win a good job with a good client we like. But in turnover, we don't have any team members. And so our turnover struggles, and we wait, and we don't do a turnover, and we wait and wait and wait, and pretty soon we're way behind the gun and technically lose at turnover. And then in win 3, we have to throw a whole bunch of people on it, but we win, and we win at number 2, you're probably still going to be win and be okay and make your bid margin. If you go down below a 2 wins, and now you start talking about, we're only going to win 1 of these 3 or 0 of these 3, and you're not consistently winning 2 of 3 or 3 of 3, and you're consistently losing at 1 of these, now all of a sudden you're talking about below bid margin, possibly, no margin or no fee on a job, or worse yet, you are putting money into the job and having to, put money in the job to get it finished. And so I've seen over my 25 years of doing this, and over the last 10 for sure, that the more that we can stay consistent with training and understanding this 3-win concept, the better our teams are and the more consistent we are. And it also sets up this framework for training, where we can now go and look at what the training needs are and frameworks based on these 3 different wins, and figure out what your customized companies do and where they're at, and how you can help teams win and be consecutive wins back to back to back and string them together. So in general, these notes at the bottom are in the construction industry, we have to win 3 times, and our financial project results are measured by our wins. And lots of times I think that in the past, and in my career over the past, we only thought about win 3. It's like, we're going to win at win 3, and that's how we're going to make it. Why do we lose money? Or why is this job, what's the problems? Well, it's because we have 2 other wins before that if we win or lose them at, and just of note, a loss of win number 1 means I take a bad job with a client that I don't know. I mean, you can lose win 1, so I'm not going to get into that, but that can be a loss and actually a win at the same time. But our industry typically focuses on win 3. And more importantly, the challenges with consistency in this model, a challenge is that, largely stated, I'm not going to overstate this, but our employees are trained in silos in these wins. And so lots of times our sales and procurement people are a silo, our pre-construction or turnover people are a silo, and then our construction operations people are a silo. And the consistency that needs to happen through all 3 is not always there. And so we can get lucky, win 1, win 2, and win 3, but not weave it all together. But we can get consistent and clarity by keeping them all 3 together and aligning all 3 at the same time. And that clarity and consistency, when it's lost between wins, is, in my opinion, luck sometimes is really what it is, or the circumstances that make it good, or experience, depending on who the people are, or the team, or different things that happen. But if you can get that through, it turns out of that risk, and it makes it just be a consistent win, a 3 for 3 win, and that's what we're going for. So that's kind of one way of looking at consistency through this 3-win model example. So I want to show you a second way and stretch out a little bit here and look at a different way to think about a win and how it is a process. And so this first one was really just a straight line. You know, if you win 3 times, we're going to get to results, and we're either going to lose or make money more or less based on how the wins are. This is a way to think about it with process. And now what I'm doing is I'm taking these wins and I'm aligning them into an order so that they become a process and a flow of work. And so I learned this picture up on the right-hand side. I learned this and I started this thought concept back when I'm going to go point back to the Denver Justice Center where I was the project executive on. And what we started doing there was talking about these wins and how it worked and how this is a process that we go through. And if we can get better at this process, other departments can start fitting into this process and how they attach and how they help and support the wins. In addition to that, we can also see that as the wins happen, we're producing a building, we're producing profit, we're gaining client satisfaction. That's our clients that give us an A+ off to the side. When we finish our win 3, we have money, we're generating profit, and we're generating a good, happy client. What also goes back up to win number 1 is the business gains experience, the company gains the experience, and an employee gains a resume and a career. So if we spin that back up into win 1, and an example of this I've been using is my roofing company example. If the roofing company wins a good job, does a good job in turnover, builds a good job for a school, let's say, I'm going to gain a school client, I'm going to gain profit, and then I'm going to stay consistent because I'm going to take that building and I'm going to spin it back up into procurement. And I'm going to say, I just got done with the school. I have the right people to do the school. My employees know what they're doing with the school. I know how to do a school. Now I'm spinning back into procurement and I'm being consistent with how that process happens by moving through this consistently process. And now I can stay consistent within a system, and I can apply that system to different markets. I can apply the system to different geographical regions, which we talked about. I can apply this system to different locations. It's scalable, okay? And so now what we're doing with consistency is we're creating this scalable device that allows us to move these wins in and around areas and build this experience up so that we can use experience to gain more wins and gain more consistency throughout our entire process and move it into areas within our business. So I know that's stretching it out a little bit, but hopefully this is just a straight line we have to win and make money sort of thought process. This process is I'm going to do it in order so that I can generate more work and I can generate additional consistency, and I can show us how our consistency works in a process from job to job, from year to year, project to project, location to location, all the different items that happen. And I can also help my other departments understand what we do, aligning their work around this consistent process in order to support the overall mission. So hopefully that is a kind of a thought process way to set up this consistency work and how consistency and clarity start coming together. So with that, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go back to this example number 1 here. And what I want to show you is some ways that I have used, or ways or ideas that I've looked at in each of these wins that simplify and create consistency throughout a process. And these are all just examples, and I pulled them from different areas and created these graphics specifically just to show examples of ideas for consistency and how this process expands into what eventually becomes training. So this first graphic I'm going to show you here is for the turnover and pre-construction win number 1. And let's see, I'm sorry. This is sorry, I went too far. This is the procurement and win framework procurement win number 1. And so what I've got here is in the big picture. I know there's a lot going on here, but there's 2 main points I want to make off to the right. At the top is that what I call the top line SOP, which is called Standard Operating Procedures System. So this is where one would customize its own ideas around what it takes to go from I'm going to do my business development marketing. I'm going to track opportunities. I'm going to use sales and procurement filters to align what jobs I'm going to do, if I'm going to go after it or not. And then I'm going to quarterly meet and do my KPIs and understanding what it is. So in tactics, we talked about adding an annual sales and a procurement guide into this tactical method. The first bullet on my SOP system here in my idea is my annual sales and procurement guide. That's my tactical method of adding consistency in. And now here is the way that I'm going to consistently go through my work and be able to look at it as a standard operating procedure and a system in procurement. The items below then are also additional tactical items that one could take and train on. So, for example, if I want to go in and train people on business development and marketing, opportunity tracking, sales and procurement filters, quality KPI metrics review, any one of those little boxes below could become a tactical training or a training to stay consistent in that overall top line system. All right. And so hopefully this can be thought of as an idea to say, what is your top line? What is your top line consistent framework for procurement? Do you have one? Do you know what your top line system is for procurement? If you do, great. Where are you needing and where are you looking at tactically understanding and giving clarity for where people need help, right? Is it in bid strategy? Is it in pipeline? Is it in backlog? Where do people need help? And then you can start identifying those needs and looking at training holistically throughout this framework, okay? And so the key takeaways for each of these graphics are there's got to be a consistent system. And then after the system, what areas do you need training of the system? So this is procurement. The next one here, and this one is for pre-construction. So this one's a little bit easier maybe to look at. And if you notice one thing here, what I'm also doing by creating consistency here is, if you notice the red stop sign, it says final go no go decision in my example here. I am taking the sales guide as the big funnel, my backlog funnel. I'm driving it into go no go decisions. And so that when I get to my next win, I'm creating clarity by saying I'm starting with my go no go decision, and now I'm working my way through estimating and turnover and pre-construction with my SOP, so that I can track myself through consistently through what my team is looking at. And so this phase, and in the key component here that I want to point out from the previous talks have been my 5-tier pre-construction and estimating program. In the first phase, I'm using tactical, my sales and use guide. In my second win, I'm using some kind of a program to align what my estimating and pre-construction team are working on. And then I've got these other things that I have to do. I've got to do trade partner pre-qualification maybe. I've got to look at hard bids separately, then bids at a hard bid world that I'm instead of my budgeting world. I've got to make sure that I understand what am I going to do for estimating reviews, how I'm going to look at prime contracts and negotiations, and then what am I going to do with project handoff? We've talked about them. I've actually looked at them and I've put them in some talking slides. This is actually now taking those kind of ideas and aligning them into what is a consistency system and across the top line. And then once again, here's your tactical training ideas. So this gets really easy all of a sudden with tactical training. We're talking about general conditions. We're talking about value engineering. We're talking about site utilization plans, bid documents, bid day, design, all estimate comparisons, different things that these are just all ideas that could come up that we could identify in turnover and pre-construction, needs for training that support my program and my consistency system, my standard operating procedure system that I have. And so win number 2. For win number 3, same thought, same concept. I'm going to take my kickoff meeting and now I'm going to create my top line. My top line could look like this. It could look like I've got my team. I'm going to place my team. I'm going to take that project handoff meeting. That was again back there, my project handoff meeting. And I'm going to say, and I should probably have that black if now that I'm looking at a edit to my own slides. But that's a project handoff meeting that would then create a handoff in between the two. We're going to have maybe a job setup need to define what that means. We're going to have this managing the project, which is we said in our last one could be cost forecasting, schedule, quality control, and safety as a generic idea. And then we're going to end up with how we're going to handle meetings, what are we going to do with closeout, and then how are we going to handle a project review to send it back up into win number one. So this consistency thought and this idea of consistency creates this process from the 3 wins, drives it into a system, puts it in order, and then allows you to look at where tactical training may happen. I would suggest that people or areas that can look at this type of a model or do this type of a model, this guide that may be out, that is out there, will continue with consistency and then can create training based around what that is. And this is the example of training. And so now, in order to take these items, these different ideas, and align them into what would be considered training topics, and there's a lot of ways to do this. This is just one example. You can go online and find, I mean, as much training information as you want. You can go to AGC, ABC, probably this own organization. You can go to all kinds of different organizations and find training. There's a lot of different training. It's just about what training you need. And lots of times what I've seen with training in my experience has been, we know we need training. I don't have time to create the information. I maybe don't even have time to go sit through the information, but I don't quite know where it needs to go or how it needs to go. And so it just doesn't get done. And so the first bullet here, which says you need to achieve, the goal with training is to create some kind of a program to achieve the clarity of what system you're on, so then you can pinpoint where you're going to train. We need safety. Safety is really easy. And that's why safety training is always so easy, because safety is required by the government. I mean, OSHA mandates that we do safety training, right? Safety training is, there's a requirement for a site-specific safety plan. Everyone has to have it. You have to do orientation. You need to, do tie-off. It's very prescriptive, right? When we start talking about the rest of everything we do, it's not prescriptive. It's customized for what your company is. And lots of times what we have to do in order to do this is think about clarity, think about an operational system, even if it's as simple as 3 wins, right? Even if it's as simple as I got to win 1, I got to win 2, I got to win 3. How am I going to take on winning 1, win 2, and win 3? You will improve your profit of your company if you just take that on at that highest level if you have nothing. If you have something and you know where you're going, my suggestion is to get it in order, put it together, look at what it is, achieve operational clarity, and then stay consistent and know where your training is at, especially for new hire people as they're coming in, as individuals come into the company, which is what I'm going to get to. And then simplify the tools. This is one example. I've seen many different components within companies, especially in win 2 and win 3. Lots of times this win 1 procurement slide is challenging, just because lots of times this is not as complex as this. It is, I'm just going to bid work and I'm going to do it, which is fine. Still doesn't mean you don't have some kind of a way that you do that. It's just how do you want to look at it and train it. Win 2 gets easier, and win 3 definitely is easier, because here's where we usually focus. But simple tools will maximize agility and being agile. And if you look at the way that the training needs to happen within a company, think of my repetition story and this repeating story, and saying, how do I repeat, wash and repeat, and what tools do I need in order to do that? Simple tools maximize agility. And then last but not least, I'm not saying last but not least, but establish team expectations. And I said it earlier, any type of training that you're going to do requires consistency and this baseline thought, this standard of care thought. You have to know what your standard of care is before you would go and look at any type of alignment of training. And then consistently, it's consistent. What do you do? What I used to do on my jobs was create a training calendar. And my standard of care for a training calendar was at least once a month, we were going to do some kind of training. And we would pick job setup, or we'd pick project closeout, or we'd pick internal meetings, or we'd pick safety, or we'd pick quality control. We'd pick something, and on a monthly cadence, we would do at least one training, a month, in order to say where do we need training, and then create or use content from different various locations in order to put together what that training is. But a consistent training schedule calendar is an idea for what that may look like too, to stay consistent on employees. So employees. So I'm going to change gears here a little bit. So hopefully, as we go through this, this kind of can get wrapped up here as we go through this. I'm going to switch to them. How does this work with employees and growth? So this is a concept that I've created over the last probably 5 years here of leadership, and how consistency within our individuals and our workforce is aligned with growth and leadership growth specifically. I've in my generation of builder, we went through this, like, what does it mean to be a leader, and how do you train leadership, and what does leadership look like? And I've been in leadership training, I have my own opinion, and I feel like what I've created here, and kind of rolled up into a little idea here, is, I believe, an easy way to explain it to individuals who are looking for leadership and how they get to be a leader. Because of this process here, I've helped different people understand the difference between being a good manager and a good leader. Many times over, and I have worked for managers that are not good leaders. They're good managers, but they never are a leader. They never get to leader. They're just a manager. And I've worked for some people that think they're leaders, and they're really not good leaders, because they don't understand the management parts of it either. So I believe that there's this key component, and we're going to talk about it here in a second. This key component of structured adaptability, and here's how it works. Individuals start with individual strengths. As we go through our career, and as we train consistency through our career, we're learning technical ability. And the training that we give to our employees in the previous slides that I show you gets people technically competent with what we do. And without technical competency, it's very hard to do planning, and it's extremely hard to manage any kind of work. If you are not technically competent with what you do, it's very hard to become a manager. And managers who lose track of this, who lose track of their technical competency and technical ability with simple technical aspects of the work, usually are very challenged and migrate into this being really too adaptable, and then it's just fighting forest fires. If you don't know the technical ability, generally speaking, managers will lead themselves into, I'm just way too adaptable, and I do not manage my technical nature enough, and I'm just like running a race. I get going in a race, and I can't stop. The step that gets missed, I believe, between what management and leadership is this ability to be adaptable. Good leaders are have structured adaptability, and are versatile. I believe that leadership is based on a clear dedication. You have to be dedicated to be a leader, and you need to also understand that you need to be structured adaptability inside of what you're doing. Because as a manager, I'm going to use the extremes. I'm going to use a hardcore manager that says, I'm going to follow the process all the time, from day in and day out. I don't care what happens. Everything could be burning down around me, and we're going to follow this process, right? That hardcore mentality of management and consistency, people will not always generally follow that. They will understand it, but they're going to create workarounds and move around that kind of a process, because it's just not adaptable enough. On the other side of the goalpost, managers that just adapt and change and move and do all these different things and never have any structure, are also usually not, people are not following them, because they just create more work. And why am I doing this? This doesn't, the book says that the book that I have says we don't have to do that. Why are we doing this? So this understanding of adaptability is a really, really, really important part for us as consistency within consistency, to know what that looks like. And the only way that you can get consistent with adaptability is have a system, because you have to know the system in order to adapt the system. And if you want to build leaders, or a leader within yourself or within your organization, my strong belief is a structured adaptability of a known system creates leaders. Otherwise, you run the risk of hitting either side of the goalpost, a rigid, unadaptable vision, or a wildly adaptable, I don't know why I'm doing this kind of vision. So looking for that center part, you need the consistent system, in order to know when you can adapt it, is the point of my message. Hopefully that came through. So another way to say this, being a consistent leader goes hand in hand with being a clear one. In training and consistency, we have to be able to train the management side consistently with a ability to adapt the system and a clear dedication to the adaptability to align our behaviors and create clean, clear messages within our work. And so leaders align behavior with their words. They communicate messages even when pressured. They can communicate the same message even when they're pressured to do otherwise. And they can speak and act in a way that is alignment with organization's stated values, policies, and procedures. Absolutely the case. And we have to understand that when we're doing training and when we're doing consistency and clarity, we are always on this same page in where we're at. So coming together, here's what it looks like. If we have a business with a system, and this is a theoretical model. If we have a business with a system and we are in a system as 1, 2, and 3 wins, and our goal is to win 3 times, our results are, if I win 3, I'm really good. I win 2, I'm right on track. If I go 1 or 0 for 3, I'm below where I'm at. And if my team with clarity and consistency, right, knows that my consistency as a manager is in track with what I need to train on technical ability, right? And the model that I'm in, and my vision as a leader, my clear dedication as a leader has the clarity of where I'm moving in the system that I'm designing will get good results. That is the key component. So once again, the metric of the system, the consistency of the system, and the training of the technical ability of the system, along with clear dedication and leadership and the structured adaptability of how that works, will create maximized profits within any organization. I will strongly believe that. And so that is how these 2 parts and pieces come together. Train system consistently, lead adaptability and with clear dedication from the beginning. So that's kind of the big picture thought. Let's see, how am I doing on time? Okay, so I've got a little bit of time, just a little bit of time left here. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to try to wrap this thing up here over the next few minutes here, kind of wrap things up as we go. And so to win the battle of consistency, we're going to start back from the beginning. So the battle of consistency starts with finding the clarity of your current business model. Find a tool. My suggestion was this life cycle analysis tool, but find a tool that works for you, works for your company, works for you maybe personally, individually, whatever that looks like. But find a tool that you can look back and say, where are we at? Where are we at in our life cycle? Where are we at with what we need to do? You have to look back a little bit to go forward. You kind of have to know where you want to go. You have to have this big concept of vision and create clarity and know where you're headed in order to do anything. Because if you just start doing anything, you're not going to get the results you probably want. You have to go backwards a little bit. You have to look at where you're at globally to go move forward. In concept number 2, we talked about strategy. We have to fine tune a clear strategy in core business needs. So there are some tools that we talked about to get to what are the core business needs. I suggested to look at 3 different levels. We can't do them all. Strategy is never going to be all levels at all times in the work we do. It's just not the way it goes. We have to make this be a longer term plan, a 1 year at least, but even up to a 2, 3, 4 year plan on where we're going and how that strategy looks long term. And then look at what the strategy implementation levels are over this 1 year and potentially longer term concept, so that you can get clear understanding of where you're going in strategy. Concept number 3, I'm going back to my predicting a storm, because I believe that if in concept number 3, if we can implement tactical methods to support strategic goals, meaning I'm going to plan my project from start to finish, and the further I can drag that plan back into win number 2 or into win number one even, the further I can drag that plan all the way back and go start to finish, the better I am at predicting a storm and knowing where my risks are. And the better when I get into the tactical methods that I need, the better everything starts happening tactically. And it starts aligning what that is so that I can take my strategy and step into tactics quickly into these jobs because I'm strategically moving in that direction. So concept number 3 is this: how far you can move yourself in tactical methods to support your strategic goals within your within the goals you set. And then last but not least, in concept 4, my idea here, or my guide, is to balance your employee growth with clear and consistent system training. And what I'm suggesting here for this guide is to understand what system you're in, even if it's a 1, 2, 3 model or whatever model you're in, and balance the employees that you have, their technical understanding and their management skills and their consistent management skills, training that along with a system so that then you can adapt and know how to adapt to create leadership and knowing where you're going in leadership within the next stages of our teams. So and then the tools are some kind of a framework SOP that would align with where you're at or what you have, and lots of companies probably have this, so use it. And then create this leadership model, whatever it looks like in your organization, but some kind of a leadership model or a training tool model that takes people through their entry level positions, through how it looks in the longer term, and allow that growth to happen with consistency and clarity and training the way that you want it to be trained. So in closing, here's just the last points in closing on your guide. Simply stated, if you can look at this consistency model in these 3 areas: an annual strategic plan that sets up where you need to customize your tactical resources and how your customized tactical resources add in, and then those tactical resources supported by a company, some kind of a company framework, or even a basic company framework, you will reach full potential. This is your guide for reaching full potential. And this and building a cohesive, if you can build a cohesive, or building a cohesive leadership team around this type of a model, will create clarity. You will gain a win strategy. You're going to enable and be able to enable customized tactical resources around what that looks like, and then reinforce consistency and train that consistency even at this top level or at any other level within the organization. And you're going to start seeing benefits and bottom line enhancements in your company, or in the people around you, actually, too, in your organization all over. And so with that, once again, I'm a little bit early, but I will go back to the other screen here and see about where we're at with people, or who joined in here. Go back and see who joined in. So I'm going to stop sharing. So with that, I see we have a few more people here. I don't know if there's any questions or chats here that people have. I know that it'd be great if we could talk just openly about some of this stuff, but I think that that's maybe not the way that this platform works. So does anyone have any? I hope I didn't, that one at the end, I hope I brought it back into an overall format so that it becomes there's a lot of different ideas here, and a lot of different ways that this can go. And it takes that first organizational approach, leadership wise, to take a look at it and see what you want to do if you're interested in doing it, and in looking at this type of approach. And I strongly believe, I strongly believe that at least a 3-win model will help organize thoughts within everyone that you're working with. So take it, or take a look at what that is, use it. Use it, figure out what you want to do with it, modify it any way you can, but create that consistency through a process, and then through people, and train those processes, and then allow structured adaptability to gain in, and that will help you with what you do. So Candy, I don't know if you can still talk or not, or I guess Deb's on too. Any other questions or comments for me? All right. Well, I take that as a hopefully a good silence, and I hope that everyone has a fantastic rest of the week. And oh, Candy's having our internet issues. So I hope everyone has a fantastic rest of the week. And if you have any other questions, obviously after the meeting, I'm more than happy to help um, or put together any other ideas or specific ideas for you, and then help wherever I can. So just let me know, and I am available. So I appreciate say thank you to the organization ASA, and thank you for having me. And thank you, Deb, if you're on and are listening. Thank you for letting me do this and being a part of your group. And I guess that's it. So I'm going to sign off. Hopefully, that's everybody's good. Thanks again.